If you want to learn more about effective management, head over to mattsingers.com and sign up for my free management training.
Welcome to the Mad Singers Management Podcast from madsingers.com, where entrepreneurs and business managers learn and share. If you like the show, don't forget to leave a review.
Hello, and welcome back to the Mad Singers Management Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Scott McCarthy. Welcome, Scott.
Hey, Matt, thanks for having me on the show. Looking forward to it.
Fantastic. And you are traveling right now, Scott, but you're still eager to talk about leadership and management. So that's fantastic. Just before we jump into all this stuff, would you mind giving the audience a little bit of background to who you are and how you ended up where you are right now?
For sure. So I'll keep it Cole's Notes short version for you, and I summarize it by day. I'm a senior Canadian Army officer, so I lead troops. And then by night, I run my own side hustle as a leadership coach and consultant. So leadership is obviously near and dear to my heart because it's literally what I do all day and every day, day in, day out, all day long. So hence why I'm here, I guess. So that's the quick and dirty for me.
Fantastic. And how do you see the Army being different to like regular business? Do you see a big difference in leadership in those areas?
It's funny. So I was giving a speech to a school once, like a university class, and someone actually kind of hit a similar question. And I responded in an interesting way. I said, in the end, what does the military do? Its goal is to save lives, right? If we boil it down, its goal is to save lives. So let's look at it from a business context. So what's the business's, goal, ambition? Make money, right? So how does it make money? Well, it sells either products or services. Okay, cool. Who does either the production? Who does the actual sales of all that, products and services?
Humans.
People, right? All right, cool. Let's keep running with that. Let's keep running with this string. So how do people get compensated for their time in either creating or selling those products? Money. They get paid, right? They also get time off and benefits and all this stuff, but ultimately people are working to get money. Let's call a spade a spade. Well, what do they do with the money? Well, they turn around, they put a roof over their head, they put food on their tables, which ultimately, if they didn't have those things, what would have occurred? You get the point what I'm pointing at, right? So end of the day, if you're looking at a business from a standpoint of I'm here to take care of my people so that they can go ahead and put food on their table and a roof over their head, leading in business and leading in the Army isn't that really that different when you boil it down. So
yeah, love it. That makes a lot of sense. So leadership in general, you have what you call the 3 domains of leadership. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
For sure. So like I'm a podcaster as well, and I've read a ton of books on the topic. Obviously, I've sat in many courses, and in fact, the reason why I'm traveling right now is because I'm on yet another leadership development course for the military. So I obviously have a passion for it, and I look into things. And when we go on these trainings, when we read a lot of books, you hear a lot of good stories, all the good things to do. I get interested in the failures, why people fail, why does organizations crumble, where do leaders go wrong? And then as I started looking at it, I started grouping things because I'm a bit of a structural guy. If it's not logical and in line with me, it doesn't make sense. Mind mapping does not work for this guy. So I started looking at things and grouping them, and I realized people fail because of one of 3 groups, and that is they failed to lead themselves. So they either failed to take care of themselves physically, mentally, health-wise. They stopped learning, developing themselves. They stopped growing as an individual. They failed. The team failed. So the team themselves, they stopped, failed leading the team. So they didn't take care of their people. They didn't take care of the individuals within their teams, right? Didn't take care of John, didn't take care of Scott, didn't take care of Sally, didn't establish a high-performing team, or they didn't take care of their organization. So they either financially ran it to the ground, couldn't budget allocate. They didn't develop a culture, right? When you talk about, a bunch of different companies out there with pretty bad cultures right now. So they didn't do that. They didn't actually establish, structure, formal organization that enabled people to either be innovative or have it structured enough so that they couldn't be too innovative depending on what you're actually trying to achieve, and so on and so forth. So that's how I break it down is, you know what, us as leaders, we need to look across these three different domains, these three different aspects. We need to lead ourselves, lead our teams, and then lead our organizations. So those are the three domains.
Cool. Yeah, I love the way you look at it in terms of failures. I think, I mean, many people, when they get into management, they have often had a lot of inspirational leaders that in the negative way, right? Because
unfortunately,
what happens is most leaders are not very well developed. And again, I always say it's not people don't want to be bad leaders, but people do what they think is the right thing. And if you don't know any better, if you haven't had much training, then, you know, often you don't end up as a great leader. So I see a lot of people that, you know, get into a management role, but they have a lot of great example of what not to do, but they don't have a lot of great examples of what to do. Right.
When you don't know what to do, you do what you know. And my experience, I've seen this heavily across, and I'm sure you too, the sales manager, you know, the superstar, rock star sales guy or girl that gets promoted. Why? Because they're breaking records across the board. But then they get into the manager role and they're like tearing their hair out. Like, I don't understand. This is not working. What I did before is not working. You know, I'm telling people to do the things I did, you know, read the script, stick to the script, do this, do that. And they're not getting the numbers that I did. Well, congratulations. What you did in your previous job is not going to necessarily work for you now as a leader of a team. And that's something that I see all the time.
Yeah, one of the big pet peeves I often have with that one is that people have this idea that a great sales guy does not necessarily make a great sales manager. And my philosophy around it is a little bit different. My philosophy is that if someone can learn how to be the best sales guy, they can also learn how to be a great manager. But it doesn't happen naturally, right? They need training, they need development. But if someone have it in them, the same with engineers, right? Like a lot of time people are like, oh, engineers can't be leaders or whatever. But the way I look at it is if someone have the capability to become an amazing freaking engineer, they also have the capability to learn leadership and management. But it obviously takes learning, right? It's not something they're born with. So.
No, 100%. And that is definitely my thought process is as well. Don't think otherwise. I'm just saying that what got them there, what got them, you know, all the recognition as, you know, the top salesperson isn't going to turn around and get them all the recognition to become, you know, the top sales manager per se.
Yeah.
You need to learn new skills. You need to learn new skill sets, new strategies, so on and so forth, because you're now dealing with people in a completely different context what you did before. When you're a salesperson, you're trying to negotiate, you're trying to seal the deals and stuff like this. When you're a sales manager, yeah, you're still doing a little bit of negotiation and stuff, but it's totally different. It's not the same type of thing. You're not trying to get someone to buy a product or service, but rather now get someone to buy into your vision, your intent, how you see things, the changes that you want them to do, so on and so forth. So it's different.
Cool. I'd love to dig into your three domains of leadership a little bit more. So if we take it at a relatively high level, so the first one, in terms of managing yourself and developing yourself, what do you generally recommend for managers to do? Like, how do you recommend for them to stay ahead of that?
Yeah. So leading yourself. So, you know, first off, a couple things that come to mind. You know, take an inventory right now. How well are you actually leading yourself? Are you actually let's look at like seriously basics right now, Mads. You know, how are you actually eating? How are you actually sleeping? Because guess what? Those actually do have a serious impact on your irritability, how well you can actually think, you know, your mood, and so on and so forth. So if you're not eating well, you're not sleeping well, you're going to be more irritable. You're not going to be as people won't come to you, right? You won't be as open, right? Because you're going to be, you know, angry, you're going to be tired, so on and so forth. Your decision-making process goes down because you can't think straight because you cloudy judgment. You're probably pumping coffee or Red Bull or whatever have you to try to keep going. So those are two quick hits, right? Physical fitness. It's proven fact, right? Physical fitness helps reduce stress, helps you sleep better, helps you, think clear, helps so many different things. Are you actually doing any type of workout? You know, me personally, I'm up at 5 a.m. every morning. I get up, I get a workout in every day. Like if I don't get that in, my day is actually like, it doesn't go as well. So there's that. So those are like a couple quick hits. I also say for the leaders out there, the moment you stop learning is the moment you become useless to your organization. So are you keeping up with the trends that is in your business, in your industry, so on and so forth? So those are a couple of different quick hits. I also talk about heavily on having high performing morning routines. So think of things. So get up in the morning. Are you going to the phone first thing? How many people actually wake up in the morning and the first thing they touch before their feet actually hits the floor is their cell phone? If you do that, psychologically, what's happening is that your brain skips a couple stages of the awakening process. So you end up in a reactive mode immediately of the day, vice a proactive being able to think through things in the day. So you actually need to, physiologically stay away from the phone, because now you're actually setting yourself up for failure, vice for success. So that's what I talk about is 8 habits for a solid morning routine for a leader. A couple of those, obviously physical fitness is one. Reading. So again, tie that one back to keeping up with what's going on and learning, continuous learning, and so forth. That's a solid one there. Journaling. So studies show journaling actually helps people put your thoughts down, enables you to kind of get the noise out of your head. Because as leaders out there, as business owners, managers, middle managers, so on and so forth, there's a lot of different things, especially if you're in the middle, right? And I'm still technically in the middle, or sometimes I'm at the higher end, depends on where I'm working. But the moral of the story is this: you're getting information, you're getting input from both sides, both upper and lower, and you're stuck in the middle and you're trying to figure things out. Well, sitting there and journaling for 10-15 minutes a day could actually help you get your thoughts out, enable you to actually reflect on things a lot better, and actually enable you to do better decision making. Meditation, mindfulness, again, another solid thing to do in the day to enable you just to clear your mind of the noise. Talked about being healthy and the way you eat. Again, morning breakfast, if that's your thing, and reading. And yeah, so that's some components of like a morning routine that can help you set up. Now, do you need to go through and do all of these? Heck no. If you're doing none of them, I would say to you as a leader out there, do one right now and get that down pat, right? Just take one thing and say, okay, I'm going to start leading myself. I'm going to start getting up and I'm going to go for a morning walk. And congratulations, there's your exercise, because that's actually the most underrated form of exercise going on right now. So you do that for a month and you got a down path there. Okay, cool. You know what? I'm going to add in, a podcast of my industry. Holy cow, 2 for 1. That's what we refer to as stacking, right? When you're stacking different habits together, that enables you to, basically use your time that you have, because that's the other thing. Time is a precious commodity. You can't make any more time, but what you can do is basically use the time you got available to the best way possible. So stacking is a great way to do that. So those are a couple of different ways to lead yourself out there.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a huge fan of Atomic Habits, if you've read that one, which is again about habit stacking and all this stuff. But I think fundamentally for me, definitely, I've done a lot of different habits over time, and I used to, when I worked corporately, I used to get up at 4:30 every morning, and same as yourself, I used to go for a 1-hour run, have my breakfast, and great start to the day and all this stuff. Now, unfortunately, I'm traveling around the world a lot, which means I'm always having meetings and funny time zones and funny times of the day, and that definitely pushed my sleep a little bit. But I think the whole thing for me, again, is still just simple habits, right? I mean, it probably sounds silly, but when you wake up, go have a shower, shave, all that kind of stuff, like just those simple habits, so that you don't realize at 12, I didn't shave today, I should go do that, or I didn't eat today, it's 12 o'clock, I should go and do that. So just having just basic habits that help you do some of the things that you should do, even simple things like making your bed or whatever, right? Like if you do it as part of a habit, it makes you feel much better because you're doing things in an automation way. So again, for me, it's also a lot about decision making, because if you're constantly every morning, if you're like, hey, what do I do first? Is it this thing or that thing or whatever? Like you use a lot of your decision making power on very basic stuff that ain't actually adding a ton of value, right? So just having consistent habits, particularly in the morning, just makes a lot of things so much easier. So totally agree with that, and I love the way you look at it. What about the next one? So the team, taking care of the team.
Leading your team. So as I said earlier, that's where we talk about the individuals of your team, right? John, Jane, Sally, Susie. Right? And I'll ask, your listener out there right now, and before I dive deeper, what do you do when you first get into work in the morning? Reflect on that. What do you do? And I'll probably answer your question, my own question from you. You probably show up and you probably lay your briefcase down, your jacket, your backpack, whatever have you. Log in, maybe check your email, maybe check your calendar. One of those two things. Do you want to know what I spend my first 30 minutes a day doing?
Saying good morning to everyone.
Walking around, checking in with team members with my cup of coffee. First 30 minutes every day, I walk around and check in on my team. And here's the most important thing. I don't talk shop. I stay away from the shop talk. I ask about their nights, what's going on in their lives, what did they do the night before? Maybe it was Monday, so weekend, getting caught up on the weekend. I've been away now for a while, so when I get back next week, it's going to be a lot to talk about. But I avoid the shop talk, and the reason for that is what I'm trying to do is develop that bond, that relationship with my team members. I'm trying to get to know them at a deeper personal level than simply John, who works sales, my regional sales desk there, Sally, who does accounting over here, whatever. I'm trying to get to know them as, John Smith, Sally Joe, the individuals. Why? Because when you know people at a deeper level, deeper meaningful level like that, you're going to be able to interact with them in a way that will inspire them a lot more. You'll understand where they actually, what motivates them, what inspires them, what ticks them off. You'll be able to avoid those pitfalls. You'll be able to actually turn around and, recognize them the way that they want to be recognized, right? We hear about the golden rule all the time, treat people like how you want to be treated. Well, that needs to get tossed out and get replaced by what we refer to as the platinum rule. Treat people how they want to be treated, right? And you only know how to actually treat them by actually getting to know them, and not by knowing them as the accountant or the sales guy and gal, but rather the individual. So you're going around. Now, that being said, there's always method to the madness, right? So you're understanding that, but as well as you're enabling yourself to make those work connections and enable you to develop that high-performing team. High-performing teams are teams that feel bonded together, right? That's why military organizations, you see it all the time. They're high-performing teams. Why? Because we know each other so deeply, so well, that you will basically do anything for each other. And that's what you want out of your team at the workplace. Right now, obviously, I'm not expecting people to go jump on grenades or jump in the line of fire, stuff like this. But at the same time, when, Sally's having a rough time and that, her child has been sick lately, and the rest of the team understands that, knows that, well, they're going to be more willing to step in and help her out. Right. And then all of a sudden, when John's child is sick, or maybe a sick parent or sick spouse, they're willing to step in. Or suddenly a project came down the line and the deadline got, shoved sooner, okay, folks, we need to pitch in here. And when we all know we have each other's back because we have these deep bonded connections, right? We're more willing to do that. That's what a high-performing team does, right? They're there when it's actually tough times are in front of them, and you need to step up your game. So how do you do that? You do it by avoiding work. You do it by going around, talking to people, enabling people, enabling those connections. So when you get to know people at a deeper level, you're able now to say, okay, Sally over in accounting and John at sales, both their kids play hockey. Oh, why don't I, mention that in random passing? And suddenly now they're making a connection at a deeper level, and it has nothing to do with work. And then suddenly it's like, holy cow, we need to get this done. I need to pull a favor. Who can I go? Oh, I'll talk to John. Hey, John, can I get a favor? Yeah, absolutely. What do you need? Right? That's how we get to that high performing team. And that's just one little thing about leading your team that you can
probably
do.
the most important, right?
Probably,
for
yeah.
Me,
yeah.
For me, the relationship piece, if you do nothing else, like if you do just that, like that is such a game changer. And I see, like, I'm particularly in the corporate world, right? There's so many people who are just, super goal driven, super like, we need to do this, and they couldn't even say the word good morning, right? Like it was like, have you done this? Have you done this? And just so on the ball with the work piece that they totally missed out of this, right?
Yeah, 100%, right? So you need to learn, learn about your people, and there's only one way to do it. Get out of your desk, out of your office, walk around, show your face. And then all of a sudden you're personable. Now they're going to be more willing to bring problems forward to you. You're establishing a sense of psychological safety. Hello. These are all things that, drive high performing teams, drive high performing cultures. But yet, how many leaders out there? How many, what I actually refer to as bosses, which is the thing we try to avoid. Because my whole slogan is lead, don't boss. But how many bosses out there? You just show up, just like you said, like, where's the TPS report? That's supposed to be in at 8 this morning. Like, yeah, good morning, you too. Sorry, I was up at 4 o'clock yesterday because I had to bring my kid to the hospital and I just got like running on 90 minutes of sleep here. But hey, it's okay. Yeah, I'll get the TPS report, which you'll look at it for 30 seconds, then throw it in the garbage. All right, thanks, dude. Oh, by the way, during my lunch break, I'm also searching, for job openings everywhere else with our competitors. Why? Because people leave bosses. They don't leave, or they don't leave jobs.
Yeah. In most cases, I would say there's definitely
that is a generalization. Yes, some people will move on, and here's my thought on that, right? So yes, some people will move on because an opening occurs. You know what? It's a promotion that unfortunately, just due to the stagnation of their current company, they're not going to be able to get. But an opening comes up with a competitor or another organization, whatever. Okay, cool. Now, if you treat that person with respect, with dignity, you inspired them, you motivated them, so on and so forth, your whole time there, they go over to that organization. You know what? You get a friend in court. There's someone
not just that. A year later, when they realize how not good that company is, they come knocking on your door again. Like if you treated them with respect, if you said goodbye to them with respect, they come knocking on your door again because they realize, hey, I had an amazing time. I realized that this competitor, the job might be slightly cooler, but they don't treat people the same way as you do. And I see this happening all the time when someone is resigning and, they get unhappy and they get angry and like, oh, this person is leaving me. They're not trustworthy. And I thought they were going to stay with me forever and all this. And they treat them like shit going out the door. And obviously they're never going to get a phone call from them wanting to come back when that's the case, right? So and this is what exactly as you say, like sometimes your company doesn't have the opportunity. Sometimes you don't have the cash, right? Like sometimes you can't afford to pay for the best people because your competitors are willing to pay 3 times the amount of money that you can. But the whole thing is, again, if you lead them well, if you manage them well, and very often I've had it happen many, many times in various businesses, right? Where people leave, they realize the grass is not green on the other side, more the opposite, and they're wanting to come back, right? And you find no better advocates for your business than people who have left and then come back because they realized, how good it is to work with you.
The money comment is interesting. So money works good up to a certain point. There was a study done in the U.S. I can say here in the U.S. because I'm actually here in the U.S. Normally I'm in Canada. That's interesting to me. Sorry, random tidbit. Anyway, there was a study done here in the U.S. That I believe the number at the time was, and this is probably about 2016, 2015, I believe, but I believe it was 90K off the top of my head, 90,000. That's the point where someone can actually feel like they live. Again, this is, subjective to where you live in the country, so on and so forth. But the moral story is this, 80, 90 grand hits a person to the point where they feel like they can live a comfortable life. And money isn't, the law of diminishing returns drastically goes into effect. So, okay, cool. You can't match a competitor's salary because of, money, cash flow is tighter, so on and so forth. Well, what can you do? What can you actually throw in to help retain that person? Maybe they don't care about money. Let me tell you, if I got offered a promotion or more time off, which one do you think I'm going to take?
I don't know you well enough to say that.
I'm going to take more time off because I'm past that point. I'm past that point right now, right? Mm-hmm. So money is not as huge of a motivator for me right now. I don't need more money. I'll gladly take more days off. You want to give me a few more days off instead of a 10 grand raise? Sold. Yep. Sign me up. Maybe you reward them in different ways, right? And here, okay, so let's use this example. You spend your 30 minutes a day, you get to know someone. You get to know one of your team members really well. You find out they're a huge football fan, whether that be soccer, whether that be American football. Go ahead, pick one. But you find out they're a huge football fan, and you know what? Their goal, their dream, one of their biggest dreams is to bring their parent to a match of their favorite team. Well, maybe you surprise them with just that, right? Is that, a $25,000, $30,000 raise? No, maybe that's going to cost you $2 or $3 grand, but they've been a super high performer for you, and you just learn that, and you reward them with that advice, you know, or award or something, a plaque that's going to go up on their wall, you know, that shows how connected you are, how well you're tied into your organization, your people, and how well you take care of them. You look after them. You actually think about, you know, what they want, how they want to be treated. And now, you know what? Money isn't going to be such a huge motivator. Yes, it will motivate some. Some people are 100% motivated by money. Congratulations. Guess what? You're not going to keep them anyway. They will always find somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think also just the growth in organizations, right? Like sometimes depending on how fast you're growing. I mean, sometimes people outgrow you as a business, right? And it's not just a question of the management piece, but it's also, you know, sometimes people want new challenges. They want to push themselves and so on. And as an organization, you can't always necessarily have the space for that, right? So yeah, but I love it. I love it. What about the third pillar then? So leading your organization, how do you go around doing that effectively?
Right. So for me, I'm really a huge fan of a gentleman by the name of Tim Clark. Tim wrote the book, 4 Stages of Psychological Safety. And to me, this is the baseline. This is, you know, the baseline, the foundation for establishing a high performing organization. So in Tim's book, he outlines psychological safety in 4 stages. First one's belonger safety, i.e., I feel comfortable here. You know, this organization and our values, we fit. That's what happens when people generally just randomly quit, right? They don't feel like their values line up, and they're like, I don't feel safe. You know, this is not a good fit for me. That's because they don't have belonger safety. Second one is learner safety. So I show up, I make a mistake, and I'm not getting severely reprimanded for it. I'm able to actually learn from it and, you know, apply my own, you know, process and move on. Stage 3 is contributor safety. So now I've learned from my mistakes. I'm saying, hey, by the way, Mads, like, we should look at this area and we should look at improving this process here. Like, this isn't flowing well. And you take that and you run with it. And then finally, stage 4 is I've provided you the input. You come back with, hey, here's my solution. I'm like, that's not going to work, bud. That's not going to work at all. And then instead of you reprimanding me for that, you're actually, okay, let me know. All right. So challenger safety, stage 4 is where you want your organization to be. And the reason for that is that's where all high performing, you know, organizational cultures actually reside at. For example, when you talk to special forces folks, when they talk about planning a mission, they'll sit there at the table and they'll go over their mission and they'll go around the table, everyone who's involved in the mission, whether that is the officer commanding it, right down to the brand newest member. And they will go through that and they will pick that plan apart until everyone is comfortable with every aspect of the plan, or they understand that it's been mitigated or whatever. But that's what I mean by challenger safety. They're actually in there. Everyone is challenging it, because congratulations, you as a leader, as smart as you are, you can't know everything. You can't see everything. You need people to challenge you, because that reveals your blind spots. And if that's breed it into the organization, now what's going to actually happen is the organization itself is going to elevate itself. It's going to enable people to feel safe. It's going to enable people to, or enable the organization itself to expose its own blind spots to internally. So then all of a sudden you don't have these cultures where things are getting, you know, swept under rugs and hidden, and all of a sudden the line becomes, you know, a actually accepted thing in the culture. You know, how many organizations out there have we seen of cover-ups? Well, that that doesn't occur from a person, but rather that occurs from the organizational culture has been able to be bred into that person by working there. So having this challenger safety enables people to go, hey, we got problems here. We need to fix this. This is wrong. We need to do better here. This is the problem. Boss, you haven't thought about that. And right now, personally, while I'm away, I'm actually restructuring my team. And I'm like, hey, this is my idea. I put it down on paper for them. I said, well, I'm away. Go ahead. Have at it. Pick it apart. Question me. I want you to question every aspect of this plan. Why? Because we need to get it right for you guys, not for me, but you guys. And I'm instilling in my team that culture of organized, you know, challenger safety, enable them. It takes a lot of work, but we're getting there. That is a high performing culture. That is how you lead your organization. Now, there's many other ways that you lead your organization. This is where I like to go. You know, if you're not taking care of your organization from a culture standpoint, it will destroy you. If you breathe a culture, organizational culture that enables cover-ups, enables lying, cheating, deceit, sexual misconduct, stuff like this, that will destroy you. It will cause you to have, to go backwards, not forward. And then all of a sudden you're trying to fix things. But if you enable people to challenge things, now you're getting somewhere. Now you're going to be moving forward. So that's
one of my favorites. I think, like in so many organizations, particularly if you have individuals who are super high performers, they often end up getting away with cutting around the rules and not adhering to the culture. And that's one of the fastest way I generally see for breaking down great culture, is when you actually have people that you let away with doing things that would normally not be okay, just because they're a high performer. And sometimes even one person like that can end up ruining the whole culture just based on how they're being led and managed, right?
By doing nothing, you're condoning the activity, right? So it doesn't matter. The rules are the rules. It doesn't matter who, it's supposed to affect everyone the same. So it doesn't matter if it's your high performer, your top salesperson. It doesn't matter if it's you, the CEO, you, the business owner. It doesn't matter. The rules are the rules. And that's how you breed that high performing culture. If you expect everyone to be there at 8 o'clock, you as the leader, you should be there at 8 o'clock too. Now, sometimes something pops up, you got a meeting, you're taking it from home, whatever. Yeah, okay. You know what? Be transparent. I, as a leader, whenever I show up late, I'm transparent. I'm like, yeah, I had a meeting. I decided just take it from home this morning. That's why I'm showing up late, guys, because I expect my team to be there on time too. Just be a little bit transparent. Oh, I'm late. Sorry. Boss called, it sucked me in. Hey, traffic was bad. You know what? And shows one, where you've been, and shows that the rules you're not above the rules, just like the rest of the team. But two, it shows the humanity of you. And now back to what I talked about, basically at the beginning of the show, people can relate to you a lot better now, because like, okay, he's not just this arrogant asshole that thinks he's superhuman or he's above everyone else. You know what? Oh, he's got a family too. You got to take care of this. He gets stuck in traffic too. Oh, he's got meetings that goes a bit long, whatever. It shows your humanity. But if you're like, I'm above the rules, they're above the rules, now you're breeding in an organizational culture that standards don't mean anything. The rules don't mean anything. Get it done. Okay, well, yeah, but you can also get it done by making sure you follow, the rules and stuff. And if you can't get it done by following the rules, then you need to go back and revisit the rules and the expectations. You're like, wait now. And that's that whole challenger safety thing, because people would be like, what are we doing this for? Like, why this tripped me up. Like, you're expecting me to do this. Like, the TPS report needs to go through 8 people before it gets to you, but they only look at it and hand it off. Like, why don't I just take it and give it to you? So there's so many times that people are like, I don't understand why I do this step, or I have to do this thing.
One thing for me that's super helpful as well is making sure you actually have a diversity of different types of people. That there's always this good saying that people always hire people like themselves, which is very true in a lot of cases. And that the challenge is that, it's great to get people to challenge you, but if everyone thinks like you and breathe like you, then they're going to challenge you from your point of view, right? So one of the very important things with actually having different types of individuals and different types of personalities in your team is the fact that people look at things differently. They think differently. They approach problems differently. Some people do things fast, some people do things slow, and some people do things differently, right? And having diversity within your team is so critically for getting the most out of everyone, right?
No, absolutely. And then, you basically need to go back to, before you get to that point, is look at the jobs that you have and you go, okay, well, what do I actually need them to achieve? What are the requirements? And then as you go through the whole, staffing process, setting up what they refer to as different gateways, where you're filtering out certain people. And if you can identify the different character traits that you don't want, right? You don't want, now you can actually make that a gateway. So I don't want someone who thinks like me. Therefore, I need someone who's creative, because I'm a highly analytical type, right? So now I'm like, okay, not creative, not analytical. I need someone creative. Boom. It's just a way of, filtering out through the whole application process, hiring process, a way for you to actually say, force that diversity a bit, to force that, so you're not getting all yes people in your job. But at the same time, you tell them, if you don't establish, though, it doesn't matter. If you don't establish that sense of psychological safety where people can say no to you or provide pushback, it doesn't matter. You can have the most diverse team in the world, but they're not going to say anything to you. Because as soon as someone says something, completely different style, different thought process, whatever, and they're like, hey, I don't agree with that. I think we should go right here for the following reasons. Like, I don't care. We're going left. I said it. This is what we're doing. Well, that I will tell you that challenger safety is gone, and I bet you continue to do that, your contributor safety is going to go, and you're down to learner safety, and someone's going to start going, well, am I actually even there? And now suddenly all these great ideas that your team has is being destroyed because you don't have the organizational culture that is enabling them to bring it up in the first place. So diversity is great, but if you don't have the culture that enables people to bring that diversity, the benefits of that diversity forward, it's not going to get you anywhere in any way.
Yeah, I love it. Love it, Scott. Any particular resources that you are a huge fan of? You mentioned a book already, but any particular resources that you really recommend for leaders and managers to get their hands on?
Yeah, huge reader. I'm on my way to reading well over 52 books a year. So I'll throw out a couple different books. So 4 Stages of Psychological Safety by Tim Clark is a huge one. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, former FBI top negotiator. That's an excellent read there as well. Let me think of whether It's Your Ship by a gentleman, U.S. Navy Captain Michael Abzara. I can never pronounce his last name properly. So it's called It's Your Ship. Fantastic book. And I'll give you a quick anecdotal story from that one. So in there, he talked about a time where he wrote a young sailor's parents about the great work that he was doing. And he talks about the story about the sailor bursting into his office in tears and stuff like this. And I was commanding a squadron of 200 members, and I was getting it near the end of my command time. So I decided to kind of pull something similar. So I sent out a bunch of letters, and I sent it out probably about 3 weeks before I finished up, before I moved on to my next job. And lo and behold, one of my members approached me, and she's like, you sent a letter to my parents? I said, yeah, I did. And I told them about the great work you do, because you do some amazing things for us and stuff. She's like, it's framed in their living room right now. Imagine how good she felt. Like she wasn't in tears, but you can see the pride. She was like, my parents never understood what I did. Now, yeah, it's from a military context, but still, like, you can go ahead and do that for your organization. You can do that for your team, right? And that's just another way of just showing, having that connection with your team and how well you know your team. So yeah, those are a few books out there for leaders to check out for sure.
Excellent. And if people want to get in contact with you or check out what you're sharing and so on, what's the best way to do so?
LeadDon'tBoss.com is my website. You can check that out. You want to check out my podcast, Peak Performance Leadership, you can check out LeadDon'tBoss.com/subscribe. And there's a subscribe button that you just click, and whatever app you use, you can subscribe that way. It's super simple and easy. But that's the best way. Through my website, LeadDon'tBoss.com, you can see everything that I got going on, from my podcast to my mastermind community, a few blog posts that I write from time to time. I'm a much bigger podcaster than I am writer. So yeah, but yeah, LeadDon'tBoss.com or LeadDon'tBoss.com/subscribe.
Fantastic. Scott, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for sharing all your wealth of knowledge. That was fantastic.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Excellent. And for the audience, thank you for hanging on all the way to the end. We'll be back again next week.
Thank you for listening to the Mad Singers Management Podcast. Please leave a review. It means the world to us. You can also learn more about management at madsingers.com.